For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel, and the topic is about neurolanguage coaching. And I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning, so let me just get the slides back to the beginning there. And today is focused on the impact of neurolanguage coaching. For some people, language coaching is something new, but actually I've been working with this for the last 11 years. So I started in 2012, and I will be showing a little bit my journey through this. And the umbrella of everything that we do nowadays comes under the umbrella of neuro-heart education. And I think as educators, we all have the desire now to bring out teaching, training, coaching, whatever we're doing in a way that's really reaching more deeply our learners, because the learners of today have changed and we do have to adapt to them. I think many of us would love to see how the educational systems could change. I think that would be the desire of everybody on earth. And it's a big question, the reason that it's not happening, but hopefully with so many teachers, with that vision and with that vibration, we're going to get that changing at some point. And some weeks ago, I did present a webinar with the findings after COVID, you know, the trauma and the research that now is demonstrating the impacts of COVID. And I'll probably repeat that webinar next month for those of you who didn't see it before. So there are significant findings after COVID, and we need to talk about them, we need to embrace them, and especially as teachers or trainers or educators, plus AI, the changes that are coming in there, and how we are going to be adapting to that. Now, I do think that it is time to focus on solutions. It's not time to complain or to focus on the negative, but it is time to say, right, how can we bring in the changes? And that includes teacher and learner well-being. It includes transforming with the new technology, with the new tools, and enhancing learning. And for me, one of the secrets, or let's say ingredients that we need to be incorporating, is the metacognition, the neuroscience, which is part of what neurolanguage coaching is. So all the educators on earth, I think this is our major objective, to bring back the joy to learning. And in fact, learning should be a joy. It shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be negative. We shouldn't be leaving school with traumatic experiences and negative, bad learning memories. Really, it is about training for the world. That's what school should be. So we're focused on bringing back the joy. Now, there are two ingredients in neurolanguage coaching. One is the neuroscience, the other is the coaching. And those are the key components of what we do. Why neuroscience? Well, definitely we know from the research that bringing neuroscience into the classroom does have an impact. It has an impact on the way that learners self-regulate, so learner autonomy. It has an impact on how they learn, they discover themselves. And it also boosts their cognitive thinking skills. What do I mean about bringing neuroscience into the classroom? Well, actually, we do it from three perspectives. The first perspective is we talk to learners about the neuroscience, about the brain, about the learning. We really do stop the conversation about learning, and we do say, may I share with you? And it might be about neuroplasticity, it might be about the emotional brain, it might be about the fight or flight. Whatever we need to, we understand when and how to just have short conversations. I call them the golden nuggets of information that are going to help the learner. Secondly, we integrate the findings from the neuroscience in our processes. Everything that we do in neurolanguage coaching has a reason. The reason that we do the goal settings in such a way the reasons that we do the motivation conversation in such an order. Everything has a reason. And thirdly, the way that we communicate is styled in a way that keeps our learners calm. We literally integrate, I'm going to say, a non-directive coaching approach because of the impact that it has on the brain. The first impact it has is to keep the learners calm. The second impact, non-directive, asking permission, actually opens the door to learner autonomy. So those are the three aspects that we're bringing in from the neuroscience. And may I say, from this research, we know that it does lead to better performance, improved outcomes, and enhanced motivation. And I'm just going to ask some of the neurolanguage coaches here who are present, just to give me a nod, if those aspects of neuroscience actually really help your learners. Okay, we've got some nods going on. Great. So we've got confirmation there in the background, everybody. Right, now, as we said, changing patterns of communication, talking about the brain, stimulating cognitive skills, and promoting learner autonomy. That's just the conclusion or the summary of what we've just said. And can I say that, you know, we really follow the premise that every single brain is different. Neurodiversity now is something that it's not just about ADHD or dyslexia, etc. It really is about the fact that we're all different. We all learn potentially in different ways. Each and every one of us has a different perspective of life. You know, the neuroscientists say 1/3 of our brain is genetic, let's say genetic makeup. 2/3 what we put in it through life. That statement alone has to make us really understand that my genetic makeup and my living experience of life makes my perspective totally different to anybody else in this room or in this world. So as an educator, what we're doing now is we are adapting to the learners instead of the learners adapting to the teacher. New era of education. So let's go to the second element that we're bringing in, and it really is the professional coaching. The last webinars I've done have been dedicated to the coaching, so I think a lot of you know. And it is about embodying that coaching mindset. We follow the principles, guidelines, ethics of the International Coach Federation because we are accredited by them. So that means we train in the competences of professional coaching, the active listening, signposting, reformulating, powerful questions, how to give feedback, and coaching presence. Whenever I get people starting a new course with me, I think they don't really understand how difficult, skilled professional coaching really is until that first and second session. Then I can see Miriana smiling, Rika smiling, Marisa smiling. Yes, absolutely. And, you know, even myself, I went through many, many years of coach training to become a professional skilled coach. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a little bit like getting in the car, learning to drive, and then getting it to the point where it's automatic. How long does that take, Marielle? Especially, I'm smiling there, you and I know. But it really does for each and every one of us. It took me a long time to even get the fear factor down in the car. I was terrified for a long time. And I think in some ways, as a coach, I was also very frightened to really sit in that space and be that professional coach. So to get it into that automatic, to get it into the skilled conversation, it's not easy. It needs the proper training. Now, how are we integrating coaching? Well, again, let me take this into different perspectives. We're integrating it because we are accredited by the ICF. Therefore, we are integrating the standards, guidelines, ethics, and coach competencies into everything that we do. Fully integrated. Secondly, the structure of teaching changes because we move into a structure of goal setting, working on the goals, reviewing the goals. Goal setting, working on the goals, reviewing on them. So it becomes a cyclical process which we follow. And we are getting our learners to set the goals. We're getting our learners to voice what activities they want to include on that journey. We're also tapping into motivation, commitment, and we're having coaching conversations along the way. And that's another thing that we integrate. We integrate coaching conversations to troubleshoot emotional blocks, to troubleshoot learning difficulties, to troubleshoot anything that is stopping or impeding the learning. Bad learning memories, status questions, xenoglossophobia, whatever it is, we need to stop and have those coaching conversations with our learners. And finally, may I say that we integrate the spirit of coaching. And when I say the spirit of coaching, I'm going to say from the sports coach, empowering, getting people to go beyond their limits, but still with that neutral, non-judgmental viewpoint. However, sports coaches may be very directive, lots of tough love. We are non-directive. And we know from the research that non-directive coaching, the research from Richard Boyatzis, from Gorka Bartoloma, not from Richard, from Gorka Bartoloma, the research demonstrates that non-directive coaching actually provokes insights and creativity in the coaching. And this is the reason that we follow this absolutely. So these are the elements of the neuroscience and the coaching, if we're introducing both of those elements. And there you have a little bit of a summary of everything that we've just said. And by the way, as a coach, we have to manage the process and the progress and the accountability from both sides. Coach accountable, coachee accountable. So we've got the two streams coming in. We've got the neuroscience, the neuropsychology coming in. We've got the coaching coming in. And this then is the concept of neurolanguage coaching. Some of you are familiar with this slide, and I know that some people may say that, no, there is no dichotomy here, but actually for me, there is a clear dichotomy of coaching, which is spontaneous, and coaching presence in the moment, and stimulating for the learner and the coachee to bring the information out, and teaching, which is directive, and if you like, with that curricula in the background. So how do we marry these? Because they really are at two ends of the spectrum. And in fact, in neurolanguage coaching, we do, because we do have a roadmap in the background, which is our learners' roadmap. It's what they voice that they want, they discover as their way forward. And we are following that roadmap, but we are spontaneous and using that coaching presence right the way through. And everything that we do is focused on spoken conversation. If our learner wants written, we can as well, but our sessions are very much about interactive, in the moment, doing it together, co-creating, discussing. The books are minimally used when we are with clients. They are used to trigger, or we suggest that the books are used for self-study. And learners can go away and we can look at what they've done, but really books are about them and their relationship with the book. When we're there, it's about being their resource. We are the resource all the way through. And there we have that sort of intersection of teaching, coaching, neurolanguage coaching. And if we look at it from the perspective of separating them out, we're just summarizing there what we've just said about the coaching and the neuroscience. And the concept itself in 2012 was when I first started to deliver it to teachers across the world. And it is accredited by the ICF. It has 36 accredited CCE hours, which are continuous coach education hours. And in fact, now I need to change this slide. There's about 1,500 coaches across the world. And the evolution, if I can, I'd just like to take you down two pathways. First thing, my pathway, my evolution, if you like, through life. I'm not telling you how old I am, but I think you can clearly see I'm not a spring chicken. But definitely, you know, the life, and I always think of Steve Jobs when I think about this. You know, life took me through various avenues, different pathways, and you know, at some point in life it was about me looking back and joining the dots, and now I can say, oh, now I know why I did that, and oh, that really helped me to do this. And you get to a point in life, believe me, if you're not there yet, everybody, you will get there one day when you look back and you say, now I can join the dots. So everything for me was really geared towards teaching. And I have to share that even as a kid, I used to teach my dolls in the playroom. I never wanted to be a teacher, but I used to teach my dolls in the playroom. Claudia, I can see you're smiling. I think you did the same. Love it. And when I moved to Spain at the age of 17, you know, I never really expected that this was going to be eventually my major profession in life, to be teaching. But that's when I first started teaching. And by the way, that is when I first started learning my own language. For those of you who are British, I think the Americans as well, and maybe the Australians as well, I think you know that we don't learn our language at school. We don't get grammar in English in England. So at the age of 17, I hadn't a clue about English grammar. And that was how I started, by hitting the road running with language teaching training. And over those 5 years, that's when I really developed that sort of understanding of Spanish and English, because I was also in my Spanish phase of becoming bilingual in Spanish. And as a polyglot now, I also understand a lot of my learning journeys. And I think if some of you have followed me on LinkedIn over the past weeks, I've shared that learning journey with the conscious and subconscious, explicit, implicit learning of languages that I've been through. And languages that I'm still playing with now. You know, I'm still learning and wanting to develop more and more languages. So everything got me to the point in 2012 where I could really come into this concept. And the reason I wanted to crystallize this concept was because from the year 2000 onwards, language coaching was starting to be heard. When I first went to Germany in the year 2000, that is when I first heard of the concept language coaching. We're talking about 23 years ago, everybody. It's not just a now phenomenon. So 23 years ago, when I was in Germany, Jim introduced me to his idea of the concept of language coaching. And when I asked him, Jim, what on earth do I do? He said, follow the client. That's it. And you can imagine I was like, what does that mean? And he said, Rachel, with this client, you've got a teacher hat and you're this price. And with this client, you're a coach hat and you've got this price. And for me, that was the question of how on earth do I distinguish the two processes? And by the way, in those days, what I did was, when I was a teacher, I literally just opened the book and went through the book with them. And when I was a coach, I just threw away the book and sat with the client and said, okay, what is it that you want us to work on? So those years from 2000 to 2012 were my playground to develop myself as a professional coach, myself with the research into the neuroscience, and to try to bring it together. And one thing that really pushed me to create a crystallized concept was a very unpleasant human resource manager in a German company who had a 2-hour meeting with me. I'm going to say which was rather an unpleasant experience. And my secretary was with me, by the way, at the time, and we both came out of that meeting crying. So you can imagine what an experience it was. But his point of view was, you're doing nothing but glorified language teaching, but you're calling yourself a language coach and you're wanting more money. Where is the difference? So when I sat in the car crying with my secretary, that was when my Taurian character suddenly said, right, we're going to crystallize this. We're going to make a concept here. And it's going to be a concept. It's going to have clear, crystal clear perimeters and components. And that's when I sat down in 2012 to create it. And we got the ICF approval for the accreditation. And that's when we started to deliver to teachers across the world. So this is the language journey for neurolanguage coaching. Obviously, the concept and I are intertwined, so there's some repetition here. And that was how we started off. And in 2017, the first book was published, Neurolanguage Coaching. I published that in 2017. And by the way, can I just pay absolute tribute to Jacob today? Jacob is here with me, and Jacob, I'm honored that you're here, and I'm grateful that you're here. And I just want everybody to hear that, you know, when Jacob did that first course with me, he was one of my, let's say, stimulators, because he said to me, okay, Rachel, now what? We want another course. And that's when I went away and did the advanced course. And Jacob did the advanced course. And after the advanced course, Jacob said, Rachel, now what? And then we did the professional course. So Jacob, you have been my greatest motivator to do the advanced, the professional, and even the teacher trainer course. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Eternally grateful to you and those of you who really were on the journey with me right from the beginning. You know, those who took the leap of faith. Katie is also one of the ladies, Katarzyna. I call her Katie, she's there in the corner there. You know, these are the ladies and gentlemen that really came on board when we were still unknown. And now they're doing brilliantly, plus other teacher trainers who are here today, Virginia, Marielle, and other neurolanguage coaches as well. So, you know, we've been on an evolution, and we're still on an evolution. I still think we are, may I use the word, evoluting together, if we can create a verb out of it. And very, very delighted that in 2019, we won the Reimagine Education, Science of Education, Science of Learning Award. We won the Bronze Award there. The second book published in 2020, and then 2021, 2022, we founded the foundation, which over this next months, we're probably going to be doing much more with the foundation. And most of our courses are accredited, the advanced, the professional, the Neurolanguage Coaching Action. So we've got a multitude of levels now in our training. And in fact, Marielle was sharing with me yesterday, I think you said, when you become a teacher trainer, you've done 121 hours with me, is that right? Yes. And I said, oh my goodness, you've all had 121 hours with me and you're still alive. So to all of you who went through those 121 hours, thank you. And this year, we've actually packaged everything into an academy. So now we are not only delivering the neurolanguage coaching, we're also delivering the neuro heart educational coaching for all teachers. So now we're expanding into all types of topics and education. And in October, everybody, I will be launching the third book, which will be Neurolanguage Coaching in Action. And as I said, we have some of our teacher trainers here. We are now with 35 teacher trainers across the world. And these are delivering all of the courses in their languages as well, by the way, which is 13 different languages. So absolutely thrilled and hoping that we can get more and more this moving across the world in the different countries. Now let's have a look at the research, because this is where we're focusing today. We're coming into the impact. And I have to say that, you know, when I started this and those early years, it was not easy to be on my own, and then with, you know, a few teachers coming on board and then more and more. But it was quite an interesting time because it was a little bit before the neuro trend and the coaching trend in education like this. And this combination of bringing neuro and coaching, I did get a lot of criticism, a lot of sort of swipes here and there. And I guess that's how we develop and learn and move forwards. And it's now so beautiful from my perspective to see the research that's coming out, and especially the research from Macarena today. It's brilliant. Now, back in 2017, I was interviewed by Gabriela Kovacs, who now has the International Language Coach Association, I think it is. And this was before she developed that. And in her interview, she was doing a series of language coaching to try and find out what's happening in the market and try and see what's happening around. And I was the first one that she interviewed in her series of language coaching in 2017. And she asked me, how is neurolanguage coaching different to language coaching? And this was my response. And it still stands today, because I do think there's a lot of confusion in the market. And may I say that the concept of language coaching from any other perspective is literally whatever perspective people give it. As neurolanguage coaches, we have a definite crystallized concept, as we've said. So we are distinguishing ourselves because we do have a process, a structure, which is ours, absolutely ours. And she even asked me 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? Well, now we're 6 years down the line. I've still got another 4 years to go with this. But yes, the vision is to really get those educational foundations up and running much, much more. So we've got the foundation in place. Now we just need to steam it out there and bring this out more and more into the world. And back in 2014, I have to say that we were connected with a gentleman who was interested in what we were doing. This was Dimitris Stepos, who was fascinated with the concept of neurolanguage coaching. And he did a profile of neurolanguage coaches back then. And this was published in one of the Canadian journals. So if you're interested in the link, do take pictures, everybody, and you can go on to that paper. And he came into some conclusions about neurolanguage coaches and some beautiful, beautiful statements. I haven't put everything down, but one thing that was clear was the majority of neurolanguage coaches are female and sort of coming into the mid-ages, let's say mature. And also this striving for development, you know, this wanting to really help people to learn and encourage them, and also bringing out the neuroscience. And very much with a humanistic character, to be a soundboard that was in their aspirations of what they were wanting. And he nicely says that NLCs appear to be liberated from the archetype of language teacher who gives instruction and requires obedience. On the other hand, NLCs tend to be democratic leaders who function as a resource, which I thought was a beautiful description of, and I would say still standing, the community that we have very much resonate with these principles here. And just to give you a little indication, I think there are about 70% female and about 30% male. But the men who become neurolanguage coaches, I have to say, are phenomenal. Aren't you, Jacob? But yes, honestly, definitely that sort of emotionally connected people are doing this type of training. And 2021, we had a lady in, actually where I live in Tarragona, Emma, who was finishing off her university degree, and she did a paper on the impact of neurolanguage coaching in the classroom. Again, if you would like to take the link or the photo of the title there, with pleasure do. I have to say the original is in Catalan. So if any of you are interested in any of the research, I can send you the PDF. So after the, and actually what I might ask Gary if we can, in the replay email, I might ask Gary if we can give you the PDF links so that you've got them, and then you can read them, all of you, at your leisure. But Emma did find some significant impacts. And there were interviews with neurolanguage coaches and on their clients. And there was a high percentage that thought that it had a very positive impact on their learners. In addition, they valued intervention in the language sessions, reaching the goals faster and more effectively. So there was a noticeable faster and more effective process in learning. There was, however, there were two factors that were interesting. One was that because it was not socially well known, that a lot of the neurolanguage coaches felt that they wanted it to become more socially well known. Well, that is now happening because more and more people are coming on board. But there was also the fact that some students are not used to being autonomous learners. And this is true. You know, we really are re-educating our learners to take back their control and their power again. So interesting studies there, interesting findings there. Some more from Emma. They've achieved objectives that other methodologies haven't been able to achieve, like overcoming traumas, emotional blockages, and getting them into that autonomous space. And also definitely proven that they are taking the lead with better motivation, and also really asking for the help when they need it, not just constantly being given that sort of assistance by the teacher. And I've been doing, you know, Google is an interesting thing because you discover things on Google that you didn't even know existed. And when you put in the name Neurolanguage Coaching and you ask for scholarly articles, actually there's papers here that I didn't even realize were out there. So these are some of the new ones. Actually, there's some that I need to read. Rethinking English Learning and Teaching and Vocational Training. Marwa, I think, is from Tunisia. So I think she's done that in the past years. The main principles of neuroscience in the context of a brain-friendly approach to teaching of foreign languages is a lady, I believe, from Ukraine. Beautiful paper, by the way. Do read it. Language coaching is an approach to the development of the foreign language competencies of managers. I still have to read this myself. I will be reading this over the next days. I think you have to pay for it. So I will be downloading it and reading it, and I'll let you know. But this was a lady called Barbara I think she's Polish actually, so maybe Katie, we can. I'm not sure if it's in Polish or not, but we'll connect on that one. As I say, I've discovered some new papers all over the place on Google, and here as well are some other papers. There's one in Russian which I can't read, so I'm going to need some help with that one too. The one on the top there is actually one from a conference that I was attending, which went into a journal. And then, of course, you have the books, the articles, etc., that I have written through the years as well. And in 2022, we conducted a case study with a company called WebFleet. And in this case study, we had 12 weeks, so 12 sessions. We had 8 learners between B1 and B2. And by the way, various languages. So we had native Italian, native German, native Spanish, and native Polish in those studies. And each of them were given a neurolanguage coach who could connect with their language family. Katie was one of them. And they were given level tests before, questionnaires before, scaling questionnaires before, and after the 12 weeks, they were given again test, questionnaires, and scaling. And definitely after 12 weeks, there was a significant statistical impact. And again, if you would like to receive the PDF, what I will do is I will ask Gary to include that into the back of the recordings so that you can see exactly what we did. And WebFleet did allow us to publish that. So that was published on the internet, on posts on the internet. So, you know, just in 12 weeks, we are getting learners to really take autonomy, control, and come into much more effective learning. So it's almost like we're focusing people in and helping them to understand the learning process. The learning process is not just about seeing us every week and explicit learning. It really is about embodying the language as well. And how do we help our learners to understand explicit, implicit, and everything that they can do? Now, can I share with all of you that actually, after those 12 weeks, and you're going to laugh at this one, everybody, those 8 learners actually told HR, we don't need our coaches anymore because we know now how to do it by ourselves. Which is brilliant because they, after 12 weeks, became autonomous. So yes, we lost 8 clients. However, we were given another 15. And I do think that's the way that this should work. You know, we should be prepared to say, okay, we're going to lose learners because they're going to be much more efficient and effective by themselves. And they may just need me for check-ins every so often. That's fine. But then you'll find that by word of mouth or literally because of the results you've had, you're going to get more and more learners. And I always say, your learners will never, ever, ever forget you. They will always come back to you. If they are happy learners, they will always come back. And that is something that's happened to me through my life. And I'm sure it will be something that happens to all of you as well. Now, let's go to the research of Macarena. And in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to come back to this in a minute because I'm going to plug you into Macarena, who has sent a video to explain her research. So I'm going to let Macarena do the talking here now. Here we go. Hopefully. Oh, hang on. Let me see what's happening here. Let me just go in the background and start it up. I'm not sure if it's because of the internet or something else. Let me just see. 1 second, commercial break, everybody. with my internet being a bit wobbly, sometimes it downloads well, sometimes it doesn't. So let me just see if I can get it back.
Hi, everyone. Already impacted by Neurolanguage Coaching? I bet you are. I'm really sorry I cannot be there live, but I'm still alive, and I really want to share with you how Neurolanguage Coaching has, how Neurolanguage Coaching impact has been reflected on a research I did last year. So the nature of my thesis, my master thesis, was a mixed method one, and I wanted to see if after applying neurolanguage coaching strategy known as goal setting process, there were some signs of intrinsic motivation and peaking outcome. And what motivated me to do this research was the fact that after working in Taiwan for a couple of years, I found out that the educational system is very test-based, and Asian culture is communitarian-based. It's a community-based culture. So for them, it's really hard to think about individual goals, to think about themselves as what they want as individuals. They always think about like the community, which is good at that point. And well, I wanted to see, because they already have the community-based aspect, so I wanted to contribute to the individual side. And after doing a lot of research, I came across this amazing methodology known as Neurolanguage Coaching. So I can't wait to share the results with you guys. So the research was based on 5 main questions. The first one, because it was a rural school, I wanted to see their background, their gender, their age, their parents' education, and their co-residency. And later, to see whether these backgrounds have any relationship with their intrinsic motivation and peaking outcome, which these were my 2 dependable variables. And after applying goal setting process, of course, I wanted to see whether there were some sign of improvement in their intrinsic motivation and their peaking outcome. And because I also use qualitative data, I wanted to see what results I got from the instruments I implemented. So why is this research so significant? Because of what I said earlier about this test-based and let's say community-based educational system, and also to motivate teachers to trust their students a little bit more, because sometimes their students are motivated because teachers are not motivated. So definitely this could be like a potential incentive for those teachers who think that their students cannot learn, that they are lazy, that they don't, that they know nothing, and they don't want to know nothing. And we deep inside know that that is not quite true. We just need to find what students have within. So definitely this research could be a significant contribution to that. Then as for the literature review, I focused on 4 main theories. So the first one was rural education, and there I detailed some case studies of that kind of proves this difference of learning outcomes in the countryside compared to the city-based schools. And also there were some signs of influence of their literacy in the mother tongue being influencing their second language learning. Because again, in the school I used to work was in the countryside, and in Taiwan, they speak Chinese, but they also speak Taiwanese. So a challenge I also came across was the fact that their Chinese was not that literate, so they mostly spoke Taiwanese. So sometimes at the time of having this coaching-based conversation, this turned out to be like quite a challenge. But we finally found a way to come across and use English as our means of communication. And the second theory was motivation, where I detailed the main motivation theories, not motivational. And I focused mainly on the one I used on this research, which was intrinsic and extrinsic motivation by Ryan and Desi. And afterwards, I got into the neuroeducation field, and I explained like how this new science has been implemented before the science was created itself. Like, for example, Montessori, and then some other kind of new methodologies like goal assessment one, and tic-tac-toe technique. You can find them all in the paper. But of course, the one that was the star one and that brought not only neuroscience but also coaching into educational world was this great methodology known as, that Neurolanguage Coaching. So there, if you're not that familiar with it yet, I invite you to read the paper and see the main basics. And if you're more interested, buy the books, which are a great source of knowledge. And I thank you, Rachel, because she was so kind. She sent me the book from all the way from Spain to Argentina. So I thank you for that. And then if you will be very, very interested, maybe you can enroll to the certification and just experience by yourself how good or how great this methodology is to foster student individuality and intrinsic motivation at the time of learning, or extrinsic, but motivation in the end. Okay, so the methodology of this research was mixed, as I said before. On the quantitative side, I used two main instruments. One was the second language motivation questionnaire, which originally was based on Dornay. I don't know if it is pronounced that way, Dornay motivation questionnaire. And I also added up some questions related to neurolanguage coaching and some questions related to my experience working in that book. So the final version, you can find it in the appendix of the research. And then also I use the speaking or the oral test of GEPT test, which is General English Proficiency Test. It's the one that the most common international exam that students take here in Taiwan. And on the qualitative side, I use the teacher observation notes, where I focus on intrinsic motivation, picking outcome, and also left some side for teachers to leave their comment regarding to what they thought. Of course, the START strategy was goal-setting process, basically focusing on the 3M: motivation, mechanical goals, and math results. And also I applied some time from the from the grammar side, from the PACQ, or something like that. I forgot the acronym. Sorry, Rachel, maybe you can help me correct that. And I applied this methodology for the length of 8 weeks and with a session of 45 minutes each. After I implemented the research on the quantitative side, I used SPSS, statistical analysis. And on the qualitative side, I use documentation, more specifically using a common theme analysis approach. And then I put it all together, and let's see where we found. So regarding student background, I use descriptive statistics. So we could see that the population is of 40 participants, 20 of them are male, 20 of them are female. So the population was really, really small. And of course, that had a direct impact on the SPSS analysis output. So we can just like take that into consideration. Then as for the age, they were between 12 and 14 years old. Their parents' educational background was mainly high school and junior high school. And living conditions, more than a half lived with their parents and grandparents, and only 30% just lived with their parents. Then as for the student's background and intrinsic motivation relationship, the first thing that we could notice is that there was a significant relationship of father's education and student intrinsic motivation. And that was significant at the beginning, but then we could see that after the goal setting process, we don't see that significant, right? We don't see it here. So the explanation for this could be the fact that at the beginning, before goal setting process, students were highly influenced by their parents. We know that, well, Taiwan is not an exception. It's a male-oriented society. So let's say the father is a big figure in the family. So at the beginning, maybe their motivation could have been influenced by their parents, could have been more extrinsic one. And then after goal setting process was applied, this extrinsic motivation vanished as their intrinsic motivation was potentially improved. So we could explain the significance and no significance in the post-test part like that. Another thing that we could notice is the difference of F values. We could see, for example, in gender and living with the elderly, there was an increase of the F value in the post-test. So, of course, this is not a significance, but we can just see that there is some sort of trend. And the explanation could be in terms of gender, the fact that there was like a difference of gender intrinsic motivation after applying goal setting process. And we can see this trend also on the qualitative data. So if you see the paper, you will see the comparative metrics. I will show you in a bit, where I compare the quantitative data trends with the qualitative data. And we could find that, for example, girls, intrinsic motivation, there were more signs in girls than in boys. And most of the negative emotions that were documented came mostly from boys. So we could see this gender difference. And also living with the elderly, the explanation to that could be, as we saw before, more than a half of the population lived with their grandparents. We could see that before goal setting process, maybe grandparents were not interested in what their students did at school, but it could have been that after implementing goal setting process and students having the opportunity to share what they think of what they want to learn, how they want to learn, and also understand themselves. Because what was really helpful by implementing this methodology is to really make students understand why they are the way they are regarding their brain process during the teenage life, and really that opened up their minds and also gave me the chance to come closer to them. So I really foster, or really, not foster, how do you say, like, I really want that all teachers really pay attention to the neuroscience side, especially for teenagers, because when they understand, they kind of build this kind of trust with you. So maybe it could have been, coming back to the topic, this influence could have been reflected when they came back home and they shared what they did in their house, and well, their grandparents being there could have affected this kind of trend. And regarding the student background and speaking outcome, we didn't see any significance, but again, we saw a difference in set values, and the explanation could be similar to the intrinsic motivation. As we saw before, most parents' educations were based on junior high school and senior high school. Junior high school and high school. And well, we could see that this point of increase of F value could have been the fact that after using more English in class and thinking that they could really communicate in a second language, could have opened up their mind and think, hey, I want to get further than my parents' education level. I want to get to university, so then I can get a language exchange program, I can go abroad, or I can invite foreigners to come to Taiwan and share the experience or share while we grow in our fields, because this is worthy to mention. Taiwan main activity is agriculture, so this could really be a big field for, let's say, in the future for trading. I always motivate them like to say, okay, English can really help you to, in the future, to trade what your grandparents, what your parents grow, and in the end, what you grow. So, well, this trend could be reflected like this. And again, we can find this trend also based in the qualitative data. So if you want to get deeper into that, you can get into the paper and see this comparison. Now, after applying the goal setting process, as I said, I wanted to know whether there was a difference of intrinsic motivation, and ta-da, we could definitely see some significance in intrinsic motivation and also in speaking outcome. So I was so happy to see these numbers when I was writing them down and trying to put them all together, because even though we have like this feeling that we say, okay, it's going to be great, but then numbers are the ones that speak out. So, well, here we can just see that there has been an impact of goal setting process in students' speaking outcome and intrinsic motivation. And not only we can see that in numbers, but also in the qualitative data. For example, in the goal setting feedback questionnaire, we just thought that students slightly agree on the fact that they could choose their goals, help them, that they could enjoy their learning process, and that their motivation and speaking outcome have been improved. Even though, on the other hand, I have to mention that it was kind of tiring for them to fill out the form, because you know, teenagers are kind of lazy to do this kind of thing. So maybe the data of the questionnaire was not very, how can I say, like very precise. And also another cultural aspect to mention here is that Asian culture is like very polite. So sometimes they would just like, to be polite, they would just answer in one way or in another. So definitely that could have affected the result. Yeah. But well, numbers are numbers. These are like clearer. That's why we decided to make it like mix and combine numbers with qualitative data. As for the teacher observation note, we could see that during the goal setting process, 100% of observers and teachers found that there was evidence of speaking outcome. And at this point, I have to thank Rachel again, because she really helped me out to design this goal setting process form that you can see in the appendix, because as they are not used to choosing for themselves what goals they wanna achieve, at first I found it challenging for them to choose by themselves. Then Rachel helped me out to make like a kind of menu-based goal setting form, so you can have it build it and see how it was finally designed. And also, we also see some signs of positive emotion. And as for the goal development part, during the first half, there were signs of positive emotions of students feeling relaxed when they answer the questions, using English when they prepare for their test. But also there were some signs of negative emotions like boredom or non-engagement. especially coming from boys. And well, one reason for that could have been the fact that we were all new into this new way of teaching. So not only them, but also me at the beginning were kind of puzzled on how to implement it. But thank God, during the second half, these negative emotions vanished or were diminished, and the frequency of positive emotions were improved. So because we were all already like more into it. So definitely it's not just by chance that the second half was better than the first half. And well, definitely the last part was the teacher, the goal review. So during the goal review, we just saw that students likely agreed, but observers, 80% of observers found that there was evidence of a speaking outcome and improvement in English proficiency using goal setting process. So that was great result. And I was super happy when I was just trying to put them all together and see, yes, neurolanguage coaching and goal setting process can definitely work at schools if we use the right instruments and if we use it in the right, let's say, context with the right teamwork, with the right strategy. So yeah, I'm so happy to share this with you guys. So we could say that the main conclusions of this paper could be the fact that considering family educational background and understanding students' family and yes, and learning background is important at the time of designing the curriculum. Also, the idea of fostering goal-oriented learning processes or strategies like neurolanguage coaching one or others, but especially goal-setting process can really help them to improve their individuality. And at that same time, taking into account this gender difference and parental education. And also, this study really showed the significant and positive impact of the students' intrinsic motivation and speaking outcomes results after applying this method. And the qualitative data also told us that students' autonomy is important, and whenever we give them the right tools and the right space, we can really see signs of positivity in their emotions, and having a supporting environment can really help them to have a better speaking outcome, and in the end, a better motivation in language learning. So it's a pity, I don't know the other slide, I couldn't show it up, but if you get into the paper, you can really see some pictures of that really prove all these things that I have shared with you today. And if you really want to have access to the paper, you can get into the National Digital Library of Theses and Dissertations in Taiwan. And once you get there, there I will leave you with the link. You can go like, because it will be in Chinese, right? But if you go up right, you will have the option to click it in English. And once you get in there, you just type Neurolanguage, and the thesis will pop up, yeah. And there you can just like read it all and see with your eye what I have shared with you today. So even though we have been talking more about like neurolanguage coaching and this neuro-based and neuro-friendly strategy, actually what we are looking for, as Rachel always says, is like always looking for the heart. In Chinese we call it 从心出发, and it means like always the thing starts here. Even though we focus on here, the fact is just to get to their heart. Once we get to their heart, nothing can go wrong. So please, let's go every time we get into the classroom, be heart seekers, as Rachel always says. I love that phrase. So guys, what is left for me to say is to say thank you. Thank you for hearing and listening. If you have any questions or if I can help you out with my experience of what I've done here, please, you can reach me out at my email on my phone, through WhatsApp. And I will leave the link with Rachel in case you want to read the paper. And I wish you a great end of the session, great of the webinar, great live, and thank you for listening. Thank you. Iman. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Have a great time.
Okay, so if you do want to take a quick picture or the details of Macarena, with pleasure. As she invites you all, you can connect in with her. And here is, if I can just go to the slides, you can have a snapshot of the link to the research. Where is it? Let's have a look. There it is. So that is the link to the research. And again, we'll put the link on the replay email that we're going to send to you later. So as I say, I'm delighted that we are getting more and more research taking place and more the proof. And this really delights me because it's teenagers. And it demonstrates that, you know, it does depend on us, the impact that they are bringing into their learning processes, and that autonomy, as we saw, it's clunky at the beginning because they're not used to it. There's that negativity to start with of what on earth is this about? But the more that we can explain that to them and we can give them that gift, it's then going to help also kids and children, teenagers, to come into more critical thinking and building skills for life when they become more autonomous thinkers and learners, and hopefully lifelong learners. You know, this is one of the joys that we are bringing back to people, and that is the concept of neuroplasticity and knowing that we can learn throughout life. So thank you for listening to Macarena there. And do want to say that on our website, we have over 25 pages of testimonials of teachers that have taken the course and some of their learners as well. Honestly, the testimonials are phenomenal. So if you do want to have a look at some of them, Rika, I think we had one of yours on there. I'm not sure if we had it on here or on the next page. If any of you want to go onto that testimonial page, please do. The one from John I thought was lovely because he says right at the bottom there, being skeptical at first, I thought it would be a waste of time and money, and oh boy, was I wrong. So John, I love you forever for that. And yes, I agree. A lot of people do come into the course quite skeptical and coming into the unknown, but when you get going, then you start to understand what it is that we're doing, and it's very concrete. So just wrapping up here, I think the desire of the majority of educators worldwide is to bring language learning into a different space, into this 21st century learning. And personally, I think that intuitively, a lot of you are already doing it. Many of you who come on the course, you're already doing a lot of what we start to go through and what we start to bring out. The difference is that you become conscious of what it is you're doing, and you learn when to do what and how to enhance it even further. That's the greatest difference. And I know that there's a lot of seasoned, experienced, expert language trainers who, even though with that experience, when they start to understand more and they start to really bring out the right things at the right time, are then also increasing that impact. And can I say one thing as well? You know, even me, when I was training for many, many years, there was that feeling of stagnation. With neurolanguage coaching, there's never stagnation because every single client is a world of their own. No two clients are the same. No two grammar conversation will ever be the same again. And that's the difference, because again, we are adapting to them and not them to us. So as I said, we're operating from the academy. In the academy, we have the educational coaching and we have the language coaching. And we're wrapping up now, everybody. We're wrapping up to just say that neurolanguage coaches really do understand the social and emotional aspect. They understand the explicit, the implicit learning. They understand psychological safety, the perfect learning state, as I call it, the emotional triggers, the importance of being the soundboard and provoking the connections, and also how to bring in brain-friendly grammar conversations. By the way, book 3 is going to be focused on materials that you sit and co-create with learners with those grammar conversations, those conversations around the topics, but with a coaching style. And you sit in that space and you co-create them with them. That's the objective of this new book that's coming out. And it's rightly called Neurolanguage Coaching or Language Coaching in Action. And just to say, we do have our own models. We do have the 3 M's, we do have the 5 C's, we do have our unique goal setting processes, which again are following the neuroscientific findings. We follow the progress model, and we also use the PACT PQC, which Macarena couldn't remember. It's PACT PQC, which is the grammar, but also non-grammar. We use it throughout to keep that coaching style. And as I mentioned earlier, every single client has their own individual roadmap. So the community, about 1,500. We always are doing these free webinars. We do touch bases for the coaches. We've got the Neurolanguage Coach Network, where they are networking with each other